Okay, I'd like to call our meeting to order. Today is June 9th, 2021, 7 p.m. Town of Southington Board of Finance meeting. We'll stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
Okay. Take our roll call, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Zoney? Here. Mr. Morrison? Here. Mr. Bedoyan? Absent. Mr. Pocock?
Here.
Mr. Lebenik?
Here.
Chairman Leary?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. The first item, this one doesn't seem to be working. You hear it?
Yep.
All right. This one, that's more my speed.
You need that one.
We'll share it.
No.
It's like a press conference. The first item tonight is a public hearing item. It's an ordinance appropriating $16.9 million for the construction of a new library facility at 255 Main Street, same location, demolition of the existing facility and related site improvements, and authorizing the issue of $16.9 million in bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. So what we'd like to do is call this public hearing, open the public hearing, and have a presentation on this item. And then we can get into discussions. Anybody from the public could join us.
Very good. Thank you, Chairman Leary. May I start, and then I'll advance the slides for
Okay.
Director Sadowski. Good evening, Mary Baker, 50 Burning Tree Drive, and Chair of the Library Board. So the Library and Barnes Museum Board of Directors is very excited to present this building project to you and the public tonight. Joanne Kelleher, who's here in the audience, led the project planning committee that included residents as well as board members. They surveyed the public to best understand the need, and they really worked collaboratively to direct Tappe architects on the design. Terry Lombardi led the board on developing a library strategic plan last year and identified this project as our top goal. We know that a new facility will address many things, including noise mitigation, ADA compliance, and provide needed programming space and area for children and teens. During COVID, Director Sadowski and Assistant Director Chico, with their staff, worked extremely hard to provide virtual programs and needed services. And we saw more than ever the value that the library brings to residents' life and learning experience. So we plan to continue to meet that need by advancing this project. The board members, Fran Mead here tonight and Joanne, along with Walter Grover, Johanna Fergalak, Tina Riccio, Todd Chaplinsky, Patricia Queen, and new board member Maureen Gagnon, all endorse this plan that Director Sadowski will present tonight. We've worked really hard to identify a plan that meets the needs of residents, and we don't believe it's extravagant. We respectfully ask that you advance this action authorizing the issue of $16.9 million in bonds and notes to finance this project and advance the action to the board council. So thank you, and I will assist the director with the presentation.
Thank you.
Hello, members of the Board of Finance. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm Christy Sadowski. I'm Executive Director of the Southington Public Library and Barnes Museum. As you know, the Southington Public Library provides resources and services for lifelong learning and enrichment to serve all of our community. Our existing facility was built in 1974 and was not constructed for a community of our current size. We're here tonight to discuss a building project for the future Southington Public Library that is the result of years of research and work that will allow us to better serve the citizens of Southington and be the welcoming heart of our community. We're proposing a freestanding building that might look something like this. Next. The preliminary design has 2 levels and a partial basement. It will increase library space to 29,900 square feet. The estimated cost of this building will be approximately $16.9 million. It is designed for the future of Southington and will address 5 major issues in addition to allowing services to grow with our population and needs. Those 5 major issues are expanded space for children and teens, meeting and workspaces for individuals and groups, acoustical separation for noisy and quiet spaces, fully accessible and code-compliant building, and efficient building systems. I want to talk a little bit about need tonight. The basic talking points that we've been using for years center around these 4 issues. The building does not meet fire code. It is not ADA compliant. There are failing building systems, and it does not meet the needs of our town. So you may be wondering how we created that list. It was done in part by observation and over a decade of analysis and feedback. However, we decided to do our due diligence and further identified these items from within the last couple years to assess need and community demand for an upgraded library. So those include using the Southington Plan of Conservation and Development, assessment of our disability access, existing building conditions, community feedback from strategic planning processes, 3 of them, community surveys, community meetings, and we're actually doing one final post-pandemic outlook survey where we're asking the community what they think their needs will be in a post-COVID world and what their priorities were. And I checked it earlier today, and there were 167 responses so far, and we'll be closing that closer to the end of June and bringing those forward. I do want to also I'm going to pass these to Amelia. They are further break down some talking points from within that. Different comments from our surveys, examples from the Plan of Conservation and Development. For the record, though, the usage and statistical information in there is from pre-COVID. It's from our 2019-2020 fiscal year. From the public, we learned that the top 4 wants were a larger aisle and elevator, bigger children's area, better acoustical separation, and public meeting rooms. We took those items, plus the building infrastructure, and turned those into the aforementioned priorities for the project. So the main level will welcome the community to their library and will offer immediate, easy, and accessible access to the most popular services, including the meeting rooms, elevator, stairs, circulation desk, and the beloved Friends bookstore. The layout is flexible and modular to accommodate our current needs and to be easily reconfigured as needs and trends evolve. The floor plan is designed to work with our current staffing level and still provide readily available assistance to all. The central area where folks will arrive in the library has a service desk, new books, and the AV media collection. It also has direct access to the elevators and stairs for the second level. The design addresses acoustical separation by dividing quiet spaces and louder activities into separate areas. In this diagram, teal on the left indicates the collaboration wing. There's a variety of meeting spaces, including several small areas for group work, tutoring, and meetings scaled to various sizes for different groups. There's also a dedicated create space where we can promote and hold maker programs, offer shared equipment, such as the 3D printer, Cricut, sewing machine, and more. On the right in yellow, we have marked areas of traditional library services and spaces for quieter and less active pursuits. This will include, and all the way in the dark yellow, almost brown on the right, a dedicated quiet study and reading room with all 4 walls, and an area attuned to the needs of the senior population. The program room, back on the left in darker teal, indicates a large meeting and program room that will also have after-hours external access for meetings that will end after traditional library hours and for our programs as well. This is in addition to our smaller spaces, such as the conference rooms and the create space, meaning that multiple events can occur simultaneously without impacting daily library use or operations. And then this is just a quick recap if you're just looking at the slides. So the upper level, here we are looking at the family level with the children and teen areas. It's in contrast to the main floor, which is primarily an adult space. Our intent is to make this level a great resource for Southington families. Again, I've divided it into colors. This time, teal is on the right, and it indicates the large children's space with a dedicated program room for story time and other activities. There are additional activity spaces scattered throughout the area for children and their families, including computers, group study, and play. The separate teen space is colored yellow, kind of brown. It's over on the left. This area also has group study spaces and a hangout space. It will keep teenagers engaged and safe. The upper corner is administrative spaces. And then we just have a recap if you're looking at the slides later. The basement, the partial basement will not be a public space, but will be used for mechanical and storage. We are also anticipating some rooftop mechanicals. Although this plan offers roughly 30% more building, we anticipate newer systems to be 30% more efficient, allowing us to hopefully keep our energy consumption level. Concept renderings of this plan have been done to help in visualizing what this facility might look like. One of the design intents represented here is to compose the larger building as a cluster of smaller connected ones so that the scale of the library resonates better with the existing buildings on Main Street. Although this is just preliminary, the goal remains to create a design that represents the community aspirations of Southington, to offer a forward-looking representation of our future while referencing our past. Our approach has been and will be to design the building to meet the budget, while meeting the stated needs of the community for the library and providing the best possible library within the parameters. Here on our cost estimate, on the left is the total project cost, including construction, demolition, hazardous material abatement, and site development costs, as well as escalation and contingency allowances. It also includes project expenses, which we are listed separately on the right side of the screen. And they show design fees, test boring, temporary facilities, moving the library out and in, furnishing the building, testing during constructions, clerk of the work, and on-site presence. I think Amelia might have some more detailed numbers for you, but I'm not sure. The existing library is about 21,000 square feet, as noted in the heading on the first column. The new library will be almost half as large, again, with nearly 30,000 square feet, as indicated in the heading on the second column. Many services that the community let they know they wanted from the library are not provided in the current facility, and those needs are represented by the red highlights. The new expanded library will be able to include those needs and be configured in ways to optimize efficient and effective layout of services. There's space for an expanded collection and also space for a lot more seating and technology. And you can see that with the comparisons at the bottom. Are there any questions for Mary or myself?
Why the roof is
Certainly. I believe if we go back and look at the upper level, you'll see that it's only that middle section of the building right there. So if you go back to the concept design, I'm sorry, I'm making you jump all over, Mary. If you look at the rendering of that building where the sloping roof is, there isn't actually an upper level. So I think the fact that it goes up is just a design idea. Again, these are preliminary sketches, but in order to keep the cost what it is.
So you're building a second floor partial that's not usable space? A vaulted ceiling?
I don't think that that's fully decided on. As I said, this is just a general idea of what the building might look like. This is not the final product. Please.
Mr. Chair, could I make a comment on this? Sure. How this works, and I know this is your first major, some of you's first major project that we've done this way. We're required to do a schematic design for the needs of the project. Comes up with a certain number, which is set forth in this case by the council. As we get to the referendum, if the public votes for it, then a building committee is set up. The building committee, I'm not saying it starts from scratch, but virtually does start from scratch. It talks about how the design is going to work. Some of you who remember the old school projects, if you looked at the elevation of those original, they changed quite a bit. So I wouldn't get too into the actual specifics of this. The location, more than likely, is going to be where it is. The size is going to be approximately where it is, but it all depends upon, obviously, once it comes into bid, the numbers that come in. But prior to that, there'll be an entire building committee that's going to look this thing all over again and will make major changes.
Thank you.
Just curious, on the cost, So when were these, and you might have mentioned this, I apologize, but when were these figures put together, and I guess how are we thinking just about the increase in the cost of lumber, raw material, I mean, everything that we're seeing now?
Certainly. So these numbers were revised in April of this year, and being as Mark explained, there's going to be quite a period of time where we go out to bid for architect and then go forward to the redesigning and creating the final plans. We're not expecting construction to start for a couple of years, so we're anticipating costs will be fairly similar, not continue escalating.
We estimate, the estimator puts in a program number. Asked of him at the council how exactly what he was talking. All he expects this.
Okay.
So over the period of time, and Christie's absolutely right, shovel to the ground could be as long as 18.
Okay, all right. And then you mentioned the current size of the building. Obviously, you said it was designed when was it?
It was built in, I think, 1974.
All right, and so it doesn't meet the needs of our community now. So this building is now nearly 30,000 square feet. So what are your thoughts on the capacity, and are we having this conversation again in X number of years?
So, admittedly, I should let you know that the Connecticut State Library puts out a space needs assessment that we filled out, and that actually wanted us to come in at over 40,000 square feet. Working with architects, and Mr. Hoover is. I was in a webinar just earlier this week about designing post-pandemic, and he was one of the featured speakers in a nationwide webinar. So he's pretty talented with this. We looked at how we could do this with modular ways, how we could look at as needs change. I mentioned that the main floor is going to include our AV and media space, and I know a big discussion that we've had internally with the board is that really even going to be necessary by the time the building comes up? Right now, those numbers are very, very high, but there's other things we can move into that space and then take that space to turn into something else. So we're really laying into the modular and flexible ability of an open space. The facility that we have right now, with the way the support columns are for the mezzanine, make it impossible to widen the stacks to ADA, compatibility, compliance, without losing probably about a third of the collection if I was being conservative, just because of the way those supports are put in. And something like this is designed so that we can say, hey, this isn't going to work here for us anymore. We can put something else in. And that's really going to be the goal.
So when you look at, what was it that suggested 40,000 square feet? That was what?
The Connecticut State Library's space needs assessment.
Okay, so 40,000 square feet, this is 30,000 square feet. So a significant difference. And you're saying, so a lot of it comes down to maybe use of modular spaces and rooms here. And
Yes.
what other areas where would there be between 30,000 and 40,000 that we wouldn't be able to accomplish in this design?
It comes down to, we could technically, the space needs has been projected on how collections have been growing, physical collections. We know that that's going to be changing somehow, so there'd be more space for that. Really, we're focusing on trying to make room for people in this building, because that's what the need is. A lot of people, and they're wrong, say that they can get everything they need off of the internet. Why do we have the library? And of course, we know that we have the library because it provides digital equity, it provides fair and equal access to information, computers, and all of those, and resources that some people just can't afford. It's resource sharing. It's better for our citizens, but also it provides a meeting space and a gathering space for people to get that social component that is so important to them. So that's what we're adding in.
Okay. Thank you.
I've got a few questions.
Certainly.
The first is just on what you last thing. The
Let me take a look. It's kind of tiny here. There will be some computer and technology included in this proposal. There will certainly also be the continuing.
It says data network IT. Is that? I'm sorry. It says data network IT, and it's 50 grand. Is that going to be enough? Do you think? It just seems like an arbitrary number. That's all. Is it based on anything?
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yeah.
Mr. the cost estimate would be including hard wiring for the building. Items, however, just want to point out that the library board fund there that we are committed to following should the referendum be successful, to hopefully apply some of those funds to add-ons for furnishing.
Okay,
in the
so
building.
it is
So
here. Yeah.
really to what Director Sadowski pointed out about the needs for the state grant, the recommendation for the size of the building, sorry, from tried to constrain it as a board to be reasonable to what we thought the voters could afford for a cost, and this is why we've arrived at this size, with her good point of that we can make it a movable interior space to adapt to future needs. And
Okay, so it's here. Okay, second thing. Is it mentioned, in the which is do we understand the site enough? Not allow ourselves to have.
My understanding is that we're going to first be relocating the building to a different part of the site that should not be subject to the current conditions we're under, and that second, there'll be substantial testing as part of the building committee's process to figure out where it is. This is just an exercise to ensure that we can get what we need in terms of square footage for the cost that we.
No, I understand. But it's just, there's a risk element in.
Certainly.
You move it towards the back there,
Mm-hmm.
which, last time we chatted about. Going to get stuff, draining down the hill. I mean, there are site issues. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if that's maybe look at now. Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
I
see that.
I
yeah.
I only tell you at this point, site plan, obviously.
Yeah.
Estimates, the building was.
Yeah, I see you've got
Yeah.
12%. I mean, in terms of engineering fees, how do you see this project going forward? Obviously, got fees for the engineering. Is the engineering, is that to bring in a consultant? Okay, what
No, I'm just wondering, I'm trying to
I'm saying-
remind myself if it's listed as a separate line item there.
right.
Yeah.
Is this include, obviously, to control risk, if you bring an engineering consultant in just as project, that does kind of obviate some risk. Is that something you have in mind? Is that how you?
It's,
It's
The building committee's decision.
okay. So
Yeah.
that's all
I have-
again. That's all with the building committee.
The
Yeah.
building committee normally, our building committee, and I'm speaking to one of my former chairs of my building committee to my right, we built 2 middle schools, God help us together. But that being said, we chose the construction manager at risk. Architecture, yeah, what we normally do is we will hire the process. So when the architect design, you have the construction manager giving you estimates each time, because the last thing you want on a project, architect designed this project that couldn't be built for what you estimated for. So that's why we do the construction and then the architect. And it's been very successful. But the ultimate decisions on the
Last question, but I'm not sure. Way your aligned to say.
put on a different hat in a second. Anytime you have the authority to bond, does it? You look at this and say, and if we've had this,
Right.
just because it says $16.9 million doesn't mean that absolutely under law. Or if you want to choose some other.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I saw that, yeah.
of a state grant.
Yeah. Which was what, $1 million or
We're gonna
something?
leave.
Million?
Yes, very close to $1 million, with depending on whether or not we go for LEED certification.
Okay, and, oh, I said that was a lot. Just one more promise.
Certainly.
The square feet of footage, that's a very rough estimate, right? Any outside?
TAPE contracts outside with a different cost estimator
Okay.
to have some.
But it
those
was
numbers.
done?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
I have a overall observation and a concern. I support a new library, but I look back and I almost call them failings in a way. Like when you look at the library parking lot project, when we saw that in here on a PowerPoint presentation, it looked really nice. And I believe, if my memory serves me, the trees were going to be 3-inch, like a nursery grade tree. And the word value engineering came up because the price had to be cut back. And when I look at that now, that's all I think about when I drive by. To me, it looks crappy. The hill looks lousy. The trees are shabby. And the parking lot, the whole place to me has no curb appeal. And I don't blame anybody associated with the library. I come back to the conversation in this room when we went forward with the parking lot expansion. And we talked about, what are you going to do with the hill? How are you going to maintain it? All the questions were asked and answered. And then when that thing popped up, it just didn't resemble what, at least what I thought it should, based upon what was presented here. During the course of the past 11 years or so of doing this, we see that the police department needs a new roof. There were some hiccups, I don't know the extent of them, with the new Calendar House senior facility, and there always will be. But my concern, I'll get direct to the point, I want to make sure that, I don't know, I'm not in the building trade, so I don't know if 16.9 is the right number is 20, or the right number is 13. But I do know that when you have a vision for something and you want it so bad, and someone comes in and says, well, we can give it to you, but we have to put a cheaper roof, cheaper windows, a lesser grade door on there. Maybe you're not going to get the state-of-the-art door. You're going to get some lesser grade. And then we'll be in here in about 7 to 10 years because the door's failing, the roof needs replacement, something just wasn't, bathrooms weren't tiled, maybe they were just sheetrock walls and they're getting damaged, and we just didn't build it. We just didn't build it when I know, when even at home, and I'm going off on a tangent here, but they'll always, the good, better, best comes up. Mm-hmm. And I'm a best guy, so I always pick best and deal with it. But, you know, when we're doing a big project like this, I just want to make sure we don't get the square feet we want, but we've somehow, and maybe the word won't come up, but we value engineer, we go cheap on some of the integral parts. And then we're in here later and everybody's shaking their head at why we didn't do something better, nicer. And to me, aesthetics don't matter as much as quality. And I just want to make sure that the doors are proper, the floors are long-lasting and durable. That kind of thing. Would that be done through our building committee, done through our at-risk manager?
What happens is that there's a design, and the design is worked through the architect and the construction manager at risk. Then when they're ready, they go out to bid, and they put in the specs that the building committee recommends, the architect recommends, and the construction manager recommends. Sometimes, and more times than any of us want, the number comes back higher. So you have several choices you can make. The easiest choice is to make the building smaller and keep all the materials the same. That's what was done at the Calendar House. If you remember correctly, we reduced that by 2,000 square feet, something like that. So that was done. We kept all the materials the way they were. Everything was done, but we just made the building smaller. That was decided through the building committee, and I should say that there's always the ex officio member of the building committee, which will be the department head and whoever if you're still the chair
Yep.
down the road, it'll be that person. They're not voting members per se, but what they are is there are eyes and ears for the building. So yes, to answer your question, do we have value engineering? I could tell you that I probably, in the years here, I probably had 18 different major projects, and there was value engineering on just about every one of them. But it isn't necessarily what you're thinking of, more than just the bringing the envelope in. Which
Well, I'm thinking of nobody in the course of all that time, nobody's ever come back to the Board of Finance and said, we're in a jam. Everybody approved 16.9. We still need X amount of square feet. And to do that, all the intelligent people are telling us that we're going to have to use a lesser grade of this, that, or the other thing. But nobody's ever circled back to the Board of Finance and said, can you, the Board of Finance, find us an extra $1 million? Can you find us an extra 500,000? Because we want to go here and not here. And I'm not talking about adding on bells and whistles, but to get the quality of the design that we're all talking about, looking at, and approving. Nobody's come back to say, I need more.
In most cases, Mr. Chair, that would be the council's decision. Back to you once before with the middle schools. We came back and did a referendum for you because we could not do what was asked of us to do based upon the money that we received. So yes, it's always possible to go to referendum, and those are about as popular as I can.
But, well, even if it's less than $1 million, you can come back without the re-referendum, right?
That's a tricky one, because the bond council will say that that you went to the public with X, and then now you're doing this without public input. So that bond
All
council
right.
may have a problem with that.
Well, then we better get it right out of the gate.
Yes. Yes.
If it's that complicated, then so how do I know whether 16.9 is the right number for, let's assume the square footage of the design, the basics of it all. Is 16.9 the right number, or is the number 17.9?
Well, John, I mean, the
Or
only
it's
way,
13.9?
yeah, the only way to avoid that risk, and there is a risk. I mean, you're absolutely right. If we had the design up front and the site plan, those elements done up front, it's the only way to avoid that, and that would have to be probably before the referendum, which because otherwise, I mean, it's like any building project. The risk is always in the upfront work, surely. And we won't know what the results of that are until.
To make you feel better, the only thing I could say is the same procedure's been followed. Calendar House. The group of people who have an interest in it say what they need. We hire outside professionals to say, okay, can we get what we need? The appropriate authorities, the number, and the people who are looking to do the project, which is the initial people, which is the library board. And the experts say that they can do it for this particular that the money's estimated to an 8 period, and that's all the information that we have in front of us. And we all know the best you can do is based on your decision on the information that's currently in front.
So what do we learn from going back to the police department? I'll leave the newer buildings. I think we've done better, right? The middle schools, we've done a pretty good job. Even Calendar House had a few hiccups, but has been a pretty good job. But when we go back to the ones, and I don't want to mention the contractors or the architects, but we go back to some of the other buildings we've done where they didn't achieve what we expected them to achieve. What did we learn, and what are we going to do better now?
Construction manager at risk. It changes the whole process.
From inception.
We used to have a building committee, and the building committee would sign contracts with all the subs, would deal directly with all the subs. We stopped doing that 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and we said, okay, we're going to hire a construction manager at risk. They get paid a fee. All the contracts are with them. We have one contract with the construction manager. The construction manager at risk has all the subcontracts. They're responsible to monitor all the subcontractors, and that's why if we do that, you're not going to need the clerk of the works because they're on site for that. And they're responsible to give us the product. As long as we don't make major changes, they're responsible to give us the product based upon their contract with us. Only 8 years ago.
Okay, well, I guess but I think one thing, if a problem does pop up where the people closest to it feel like we're compromising in areas where maybe we shouldn't be compromising, just ask somebody to speak up, whoever it is in authority, to come back. And if there's some crazy hurdles, we'll figure it out, rather than to find out later something went wrong and people are shaking their heads at what did those people do, prior to during the public hearing, during the bond ordinance. What did they do? to get us in this position. I just want to make sure we do it and we do it right. That's all.
We all want that.
And I look at that parking lot, and to me, it's a crappy looking thing, and it has been since it was built. And so I use that just as a reference. Let's not do that again. All right. Any more?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just have to do one
As a
thing here.
person who uses that library constantly, I'm in and out of there 2 to 3 times a week. Under normal circumstances, I tutor there 2 to 3 times a week as a literacy volunteer. I appreciate the library, all its services, and its staff. They're very helpful. Their services are wonderful, and I use Wallingford and New Britain as well. So I'm appreciative of what.
Yep, just give me 1 second. I got a little issue. Sorry, a little
A small crisis.
small issue. Okay, and now my computer timed itself out, so give me, please bear with me. Okay. So we could move that. You want to move that item up?
Well, we need to close the.
Yeah, I'll close the public hearing.
We need to-
Is there any comments from the public on this? Any comments from anybody here in addition? Please.
Joanne Kelleher, I am a member of the library board, but I am also the director of the Early Childhood Collaborative of Southington. We are a nonprofit that supports parents and child care providers, and wearing my Early Childhood Collaborative of Southington hat, I would like to ask for support for this library project. A large component is an expanded space for children. The families in Southington really do not have a place to bring their young children to play inside, and to have a dedicated space with walls so the young children are not bothering the adult patrons, with a dedicated family bathroom in the children's department, with a dedicated play area, with seating for adults. Currently, the children's department only has a handful of seats for the adults. All of that would be greatly appreciated by the families of young children here in Southington. So thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any more public comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the public hearing closed, and I'd ask for unanimous consent to move manager memo number 1 to next on the agenda, which is our action on the bond ordinance. If anybody doesn't object to that.
I agree.
Like to move that up. So now
Okay.
we'll take that up. So manager memo number 1 is our recommendation to the town council regarding an ordinance appropriating $16.9 million for the construction of a new library facility at 255 Main Street, including the demolition of the existing facility, related site improvements, and authorizing the issue of $16.9 million in bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, motion, Mrs. Zoni, second by Mr. Pocock. Any further discussion? Okay,
I'll need to call the roll on that.
yeah, definitely. We'll do a roll call vote.
Stoney,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Pocock? Yes. Lebenek?
Yes.
Chair Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, it passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for the presentation, and you probably have to make it a lot of times to the public, because there's a lot of, let the public, everybody get informed, and then they can make an informed decision when they vote. But anything over $1 million does go to the public to vote, so we're just putting it into the polls.
Thank you.
And thank you for your work on all this. Okay, moving down, old business, seeking the approval of the minutes of the May 12th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion, correction to those minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the May 12th minutes are official. Now we assess the financial state of the town. We'll start with the revenue side, go to expenses.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're 11 months into the year. Our prior year's taxes are $220,000 under budget. Interest on taxes are $180,000 under budget, which we kind of expected. Our building permit and fees, we're going to basically use some money from building permit and fees and town clerk fees for budget reallocation. Thank you. That would leave us $200,000 budget increase in building permit and fees and $380,000 in town clerk fees. Our interest in investments are $170,000 under budget, and then we're getting an extra $313,000 for grants for municipal projects. We had budgeted $820,795. $854. The thing with that grant is it comes in the last month of the year, so we kind of hold our breath and, you know.
What's our problem with prior year tax collection?
It's not a problem, but we knew that it was going to be a little slow in coming.
Moved it to April, so we're having this.
Okay.
You moved it to April, we'll have
Yeah.
delays now until June and July.
And obviously, the interest on taxes, we gave them a period of time
Yep.
to pay, so there was no interest due.
We anticipated both these. In fact, perfectly
Yes.
blunt, I anticipate a higher number than 200.
Yeah.
But we've actually done pretty good in the overall collection
Very well.
after the time period. We've been
Yes.
Very well.
Yeah.
strong as a community, so.
And our current tax collection is very good, yes. So we're about $280,000 to the good.
Okay. All right, I'll let you continue.
Okay, that's the revenue, if anybody has any questions on it.
98%?
Yep,
It's 98, and
yeah,
do
we're
you believe
doing-
it's going to be that this year as well?
yeah. I
So
think-
we
I
really
think we're
haven't
good.
been affected.
Well, it's still kind of early. It's kind of early to say, but I think that we've been very fortunate that everyone's been able. As far as expenditures go, we don't really have any major issues that I can see right now, with the exception of some of the items that we put on here. I wouldn't call them major, but. Part of it is obviously because projects had to be delayed or.
No? Okay, anything on the capital project specifically to go over?
No.
All right, we'll get into the committees. Sewer Committee, Mr. Morrison?
Yeah, basically we had it was really set up the meeting tomorrow, actually. Speaking of building committees, looks like the sewer committee is actually the building committee, which is like $59 million. And it should be available for us tomorrow. Testing has been really good for the phosphorus building. Declaration of success tomorrow, or at least very close to it. The project's 99% up, and it should. So obviously everything is overshadowed by that, and it's looking very good. And you can add it to the. Hopefully, you'll add it.
If there's no smell in the neighborhood, the neighbors will be very, very happy.
Well, we had a couple of issues.
Yeah. But I believe Tony will know more tomorrow. I think the meet and greet in September for the plan. So, and they'll be unveiled.
Thank you. Public Works Committee, Mr. Pocock and Mrs. Zoni?
I'll defer to Mr. Pocock as I was away on vacation.
I was trying to slide it that way, but that's okay. I won't do as good as Mrs. But we had quite a good meeting. Some of it dealt with a Western Prospect. The police chief gave a report on that. They're trying to make that a lot better. They're putting reflective reflectors on all the stop signs and the approach. Trying to make that any safer than can be done. We get down to the transfer station. They've been busy with that. The hazardous waste Friday night went very well.
Very well.
Very well. I mean, queuing cars through the bulky waste worked really swell. Real well, really did. It was. And road construction, I don't have much going. The Spring Street Bridge is on its own way being worked. It's a one-way road, being utilized with traffic lights to control it. I've been through there. It works quite well. It's been used in a lot of other towns. Spring Street turning lane, they should be starting tomorrow up there. The construction, that's under budget, which is.
Wait till it's constructed
Well,
before I say that.
I
but
said
yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah,
but-
the estimate is under budget.
But the
correct.
estimate is under budget in the
Yes.
bid, so,
Yeah.
and that's the way it went. And,
And since we're not going to have a meeting between now, almost all the preliminary work will be now and the end of June. Construction companies coming in right after the 4th of July. The entire schedule that we have on our list for this year.
I missed one thing, and Mrs. Zoni brings this up all the time. You can pick up the passes for bulky.
Bulky waste. The only place they have them is at the highway garage. But there's two changes. There's two changes. Number one is that even new transfer stations could be obtained by mail and not available in the clerk's office. I can't stress that
No,
enough.
I just saw them on the table downstairs.
That's a schedule. That's a schedule of the transfer.
No, it isn't.
In that case, people are giving away free tickets. No, that's
No,
not-
not giving away free, but you can fill out a form there and mail it in.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's-
You can fill out forms.
But basically, it's all done down the highway garage. In fact, the mailing address on
What
them
we,
go to the
what we did
highway.
change, though, which is important, is that we didn't allow first-timers. So it was a little bit difficult because the highway garage has different hours.
Yes.
But now you can do it by mail also.
Yeah, it works out well.
Works out well.
And how's the tracking going?
Actually, the technology, and I'm looking at Mr. Baker's job, the new technology, which works off of these devices now and not the other devices, it's working very well. Okay, I have not heard any complaints. Have you?
Just like you, with the old scanner.
Or clouds.
Shroud around the.
Yeah. Or a little tent area when you come in, you're under a thing.
We could dome the whole thing. That'll be nice.
Just the entrance, the intake. Okay, but that seems to be working.
Yep.
All right, so we'll move right into open space. Mr. Pocock?
Oh, I got that somewhere. It isn't very drastic. Concern. The only thing we have is a roof project going that comes under us and Leaf and Grosky Farms, and they're putting a Leaf project in head of the Grosky Farms barn because a lot of expensive equipment in that building down there at Leaf. Myself to go get the roof on. No, they have been out there, the engineer.
Solar project on that same.
That's about it. We have a lot of things, but it's all executive session. The big thing is maintenance, trying to keep up with that, and parts and
And just for the public should know we do have a lot of open space. There's a video out there if you search it on YouTube. or look at the town website. But a lot of people have been out hiking and doing outdoor recreational activities, especially prompted through COVID, people asking, what can I do? Please take a look at the open space, because there's a lot of land that could be enjoyed by folks just for passive recreation, walking, enjoying the properties. There's some with lakes, some with water, some with hills, some with views, some with hiking trails. There's a lot to offer there. Just become aware of it and enjoy it. Self-insurance, Mr. Lebenik?
Sure. So we have results through April. I don't believe we have the May results yet, correct, Amelia?
we
So I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, we're kind of getting back to pre-pandemic run rates in terms of actual totals. So we were essentially on budget the past 2 months, April and May. We're still close to $3 million under budget for the year and still running short, also under budget compared to prior, or also under prior, I should say. So we'll see where the last 2 months come in. We had a little bit healthier budgeted numbers for May and June, but I think the expectation would probably be to be, close to budget there. So we'll still return a healthy amount to the fund.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Economic strike, anything?
We haven't met since the last meeting. It was just before our last meeting, but just a couple of comments as to what's going on. Obviously, all the pandemic type of stuff that was done, tents, patios, outdoor dining, the closure of Lower Center Street will still continue. And hopefully, to me, I hope it's reasonably permanent, because I think it's been excellent. It's excellent to have outdoor seating as well. It gives definitely, I think, a great ambience to the town, at least in the spring. And the other thing was, we did an inventory of new businesses and developments in the last couple of years since the Economic Strike Committee has been going, and it's surprising how much stuff is going on. There's over 20, new businesses, projects, etc. It's a really good thing for the town. So hopefully our grand list continues to be improved.
Mm.
Did we lose anything through?
That's what I was asking. I was trying to find out if we did.
Some of the, Lou keeps track of some of that. Some of the smaller businesses that did go. So, I think, Southington, Fair.
Yeah, during the middle, we kind of made, a lot of people would ask, what can I do? How could I help early on when the pandemic just started? But now I think the message too, even from our board out, is if you have money and you have not been affected financially from the pandemic, which a lot of people have not been, please consider going out and supporting the businesses, buying food, going to any of the businesses in town that sell things, do things, make things. Get out there and give them your support by buying something, eating something, contracting for some services, whatever it might be. That's doing your part. Then they can go forward and try and regain some of the ground that they lost, and possibly hire employees that they had to lay off or put on adjusted schedules. So please, everybody has a role in bringing the economy back. Just get out there and everybody just do your part. If you feel safe, get out and get active. So that's the way folks could help each other in town, because for it to work, that balance. We have a balance of residential, commercial, industrial, seniors, but everybody has to get back in the groove and do their part. And if you have a little more, spend a little more. And that'll help everybody.
Sure, I'm not sure if everyone feels the same way or not, but if that's an invitation for you to take the board out to dinner, I accept.
Hey, let's go.
Appreciate that. All right.
We used to, and now, but we should do that too. That'll be putting my money where Joe's mouth is, and maybe we will. We'll go for pizza one night and
Pepperoni.
We'll go pepperoni. We'll go out and just do that ourselves too, and just encourage everybody else. If you feel safe, and you feel you're not at risk personally, get out there.
Well, I could say that I'm not sure Joe did his fair share at restaurants, but certainly I know that several of us did our fair share at restaurants.
But the restaurants have been great, and we all got to get out there too, to see everything turn the corner. Okay, moving forward. So investment committee,
He does that
we talked
quarterly.
about that. Our interest is down. All right, liaisons to the fire commission. Mr. Pocock, you had a few points.
Mr. Bedoink skipped out on me tonight because he had other commitments. But I bring up one thing. They're remodeling the kitchen downstairs. That isn't for the full-time, as for volunteers, Company One, which is separated from. And there's about 20-plus volunteers that utilize that area down there. So that's being redone. And they've been out looking for some decent prices, the town manager.
Yeah, we
Working on that. Been there since I went on the job, and I've been off for a while. The other factor is this COVID-19 factor. The department has done I think myself from talking to him, and address this if he has to. They're headed to come in basically under budget at this point.
I think you're absolutely right. They'll be right on, either a little under or right on
And
budget.
that's-
But June is always tough for all my departments because everyone's taking their vacations. You know, most of our unions only can carry over X number of days, depending on. So June is a tough month for us, especially for the two departments that need to actually bring additional support in when someone's on vacation. So police and fire, you're going to see their overtime is always higher in June. Feel very comfortable with the.
And that's a good thing compared to what we've seen in the past, and Tony's aware of that too. We're all happy that's great, and we're just, like you say, and the chief said to me, that it's not over until. Also, that all the bumper trucks have all been tested, they all come in, and of course, we got a lot of new equipment on the road. Things close to me is oxygen tanks, because we've seen at least 2 fire departments that had problems with these things. We're right up to date with that, and the radios are all the same frequency. You don't have 2 frequencies. That's caused some real serious, in fact, some deaths in that. So that's something there. And after about 4 years of planning, our trails, where the walking trails, whether it be up to Crescent Lake or the mountains and any other places where we got trails, have been marked and laid out. So when you have somebody that's injured or somebody is sick or something happened to biking and walking trails, the fire department did some of this on their own. But that's so helpful when it comes to retrieving somebody out there. Makes a lot. And it saves time for our personnel, too. We're on the fire department, this was worked on with Kevin, just so.
And I thank you for bringing that up, that when you're on a trail, sometimes you forget where you are. And everything's fine. You know where you started, you know where you're going to end. But when you're in the middle of it, if something were to happen to you, you would have a hard time trying to explain where you are. And so having those numbers there, those markers, are going to be very important to somebody in need. And it's so important we put that out there. And since I'm doing plugs for things, I also like to try and do my best here for anybody who's watching. If you know anybody who wants to be a volunteer firefighter, it's a great program in town. You could join and get all the training. You could help the community in a variety of ways. And hearing about the new kitchen is just one thing, but there's a lot of perks to being a firefighter, a lot of appreciation from the community for the work that you do. And just a reminder to everyone, we are remain a volunteer fire department with the assistance from the full-time staff. So there are opportunities to be volunteer firefighters, and it's a great way to serve the community, and people should give it serious consideration. So just another thing to put across as we're doing our reports. And any other committee, anything else? Any board communications, just general communication?
Just myself from me, and I would. Whether it's a fire department. Has to work with library to anybody, health department, we forget about.
Or
So I see a
education,
lot-
we have
Well, I'm a nosy
superintendent with us.
person. I stop in and say hello to everybody. But I mean, people really going, and it was not good not being around people, I can say that, but.
Yeah, I think that was great. We should pause and thank everybody from behalf of the whole board. I mean, you look at the whole organization. Everybody likes change, but sometimes they want it to be with the other person, not change to their own current state. And you have teachers in a classroom who all had to learn new technology in a time frame where they weren't given any time. They had to learn it. They had to learn it and execute it quick. Students maybe were better at it, but families had to adapt. And again, you mentioned all of our
But
departments.
I didn't mention the education department, which is a big turn
Huge.
here also, so, I mean,
But everywhere, and the ambulance. Imagine being, in emergency services or being a first responder during a pandemic, and you don't know you're going to help somebody, but you don't know if you're going to, catch it while you're helping somebody. You're putting yourself at risk. The whole world was turned upside down, and I'm glad to see it's turning around. But a special thanks to every single person who was involved in adapting and helping one another and getting everybody through it. And we're not quite there, but we certainly turned the corner big time, and very helpful to see what happened. All right, public communications. Any public communication from anyone? Okay, no public communications. Long-range plans, did we cover a lot of that in our...
The only comment I have on House and the Senate passed the state budget. Summary of it, positive adjustment to the town.
Okay, that's good, right? No surprises. It's good.
That's all I can answer from Hartford. No surprise.
Well, and I think that's everything asked for us too. When we do, tax increase, everything. If there's no surprise, we're in better shape. Let's go into our administrative business. So we'll take our consent agenda items. There are 4. The first one's $500 to the town council for white Christmas program supplies. $454 to the town council for white Christmas program supplies. There's $777,604 for education operations. That's money collected by the town that has to be turned back over to the education side. And then there's $82,600 for the capital fund for open space. Those are our 4 consent agenda items. Can we take them all as one? We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Bennett, second by Mr. Pocock. Any discussion?
Just
Yep.
a quick question on the special.
Right, special, it's for special ed, yes.
It's for special ed.
Most of it's special ed, some of it's rentals.
I think
I'm
to
talking about the special
to answer your question, I
Yeah.
believe our school system is supporting someone from a different town. From that town. Yes, indeed. Thank you. I'm out of my league here, so help me out.
Is that-
I'm happy to
Yes.
answer that.
Is that a net plus for us in terms of?
Well, now you're right.
Oh, sorry. I don't mean to question you.
No, it's fine because it can be a little confusing unless you do this every single day. What happens is that we do have quite a number of students who attend Southington schools through the Open Choice program, and those students are residents of Hartford. When those students require services that fall under the special education umbrella, we have the right and obligation to bill the Hartford Public Schools for any of those services that are above the $3,000 amount that we receive as a grant for each student via Open Choice. So we do that religiously, if you will, and the payment tends to come a little late, which is why you're seeing it now. The Hartford Public Schools spend literally millions and millions and millions of dollars on students who are in communities like Southington and other communities in the ring communities. This is all part of the Chef Vionia settlement. So that's where that money is coming from. And like Mr. Shota just said, we kind of always hold our breath and make sure that we don't have any surprises. But it's been pretty good. It's in statute, so it's not. We don't worry that we're not going to receive it. But that's where it comes from.
No, I understood. But did we? Can we? I mean, do we?
Correct.
It's the opposite way, right?
Correct. We have students who attend magnet schools, and if you look in the Board of Education budget, as I'm sure you have, we routinely have about $600,000, give or take. I don't recall what the exact number is off the top of my head, and we pay that, and that's really only partial tuition for magnet school students. The state does provide a certain amount of money, for example, to Capital Region Education Council. The vast majority of that we pay goes to Capital Region Educational Council for students who attend magnet school programs, and whether those are in Hartford or Bloomfield or Windsor or elsewhere.
So we have we're getting more money than we're paying out, is essentially.
We are, but the thing you have to remember is that there are two things. Magnet schools are wonderful, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
And I applaud parents who choose that for their children because it's not easy. A trip to Bloomfield from Southington is difficult, and especially we've had difficult weather, et cetera. And it's also difficult for parents to send their children to Southington from Hartford. It's a long ride, both ways for kids. But nonetheless, it's parents trying to do the very best thing for their children. We have absolutely no control over the number of students whose parents elect to have them go. So our numbers are always it's always a difficult estimate, and I think Mrs. Dinello has done a really, really good job over the years of estimating the amount of money that we're going to have to include in our operating budget. The reverse, now that you see that the dollars coming in, you don't always know because that changes from year to year. Students who have special needs go through the planning and placement team process, and their needs might change from year to year, so they might need X number of hours of a special education teacher or a paraeducator or speech and language services or PT services or OT services. So that's always in flux, and as that develops, of course, we record all that, and then we do bill the Hartford Public Schools. The Hartford Public Schools require documentation, which we provide to them. There's a very nice database that exists, and those records all go into the database. We make that available to them. They review that. They do their due diligence, if you will, and eventually they do actually pay us, which of course is welcome. But that's why it's that much money, and at this time of year, because it's delayed fairly significantly.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstains? Okay, it's going to carry 5-0, the consent agenda. Manager memo, the bond ordinance we took care of already. And now we'll move into the others. We'll do them one by one. Transfer $4,520 in the fire department for snow removal. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Lebenik, second by
Second.
Mrs. Zoni. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next one, transfer $16,000 even, planning and zoning contracted services. Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? The next one, number 4, transfer of 15,000 even, building department overtime.
So moved.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next one's a transfer of 69,000 even, bond principal in the general government budget. I got to keep going. Okay, 69,000 bond principal general government, $320,266 bond principal sewers, $125,000 bond principal schools, $100,167 bond to interest sewers. Motion is second. Any discussion?
Just a quick question. Why did it increase?
It increased slightly just because of the change in, we actually had 3 different refundings last year,
Right.
plus new debt that was added on. So it's a combination of everything. And between the refundings, we saved between the 3 refundings, we saved $2 million for ourselves and the
Oh, yeah.
water department.
Right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 5-0. Number 6 is a transfer of $2,000, Sylvia Bradley Utilities.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 5-0. Number 7, a transfer of $2,000 in the police department program supplies.
So moved.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 8, a transfer in 2 parts, $152,187 from various departments' regular wages, and a transfer of $7,518, the sewer fund office regular wages.
Departments entered into the contract. This is pay raise because they managed it through the year, and obviously this is the
Yeah, it was in the budget, in the contingency.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
That's why we kept it in contingency. So
Yeah, and I waited until the end of the year just to make sure that
we want
we
to
knew
take
the exact
we want to take
numbers.
as much money out of their accounts before we give them our contingency. But go ahead.
All right, so maybe.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
all right, Mrs. Zoni, Mr. Pocock, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then number 9 is in a few pieces. Transfer and appropriation, $76,000 capital budget for highway parks equipment. Transfer and appropriation of $250,000 for the capital budget for repair and replace sidewalks. Transfer and appropriation $100,000 for the capital budget for townwide paving. Transfer and appropriation $50,000, the capital budget for street sign upgrading, and transfer and appropriation of $164,000 even for vehicle replacement.
Chairman, this is the second and last half of the budget reallocation money. At your last meeting, you did approximately $1 million of the first part. This is the second, approximately $640,000. Capital budget.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Pocock,
Second.
second by Mr. Morrison. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And motion carries 5-0. And next is the tax collector suspense list. I got a slide down to here.
Here, although these taxes are
Yeah.
the explanation from Teresa Babin, our director.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
All right, Mr. Pocock, second by
Second.
Mr. Morrison. All those in favor?
Wait,
Any questions?
I just had a really quick question. Total of 196.
Slightly higher than what we did
Just
last year,
slightly.
yeah.
Thanks.
Mentioned about the. This kind of falls in that other
That's the other.
1.8%.
Yeah. Right, we always account for.
This is where it comes from. So,
No, I'm just
Yeah.
surprised that we got through too much. I'm surprised.
Okay, do we have a vote? We need a vote on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 10 carries. Next is our discussion on the Board of Ed non-lapsing account.
Mr. Chairman, I know the superintendent wants
Yeah.
to speak on this, but there's two motions that we need tonight. The first one is the specifics for the carryover from last fiscal year, which is obviously the year we're in right now. In a memo you received. And then the second one is the setting up of the account, although it doesn't have anything. Exact number, which is 20%. So you have two different things. You have the money you allowed for last year's carryover. They've given you a specific list, so you're going to approve of that. You need to approve of that, and of course establish the fund this fiscal year rollover. I don't know if the super anything on that, but it's pretty straightforward. Separate motion.
Okay, I have it in front of me. Just want to find the.
First one in your packet.
Is that the 1855?
It's labeled 1855,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
It says Board of Ed approved at their 5/27 meeting for fiscal year, non-lapsing fiscal year 20 account, and it gives the specifics in there. So
And actually, I think package.
you only need to vote on it once. So.
So our motion is to
Yes, it does.
appropriate it back or hold it in the non-lapsing account, 1855-836.
Well, you've already established a non-lapsing account from last
Yep.
year.
And the dollar
This
amount.
and the dollar amount. This is the specifics. So you're approving the specifics of what the money's to be used for.
Okay, how do we word that?
Approve
Motion
the-
to approve 1855-836
As
into
set-
the non-lapsing account
as set forth by
this
the memo.
detail.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so if that's, you got that? She's got it. All right, so all we need is a motion and a second. We got language in place. Okay, Mrs. Oni, Mr.
I'll
Pocock?
second it.
Okay, any further discussion on it?
I have a question. Service loan, please. That's eventually going to be repaid out of ESSA 2 funds. Eventually. Is there a timing issue here?
We're going to try to work out the timing issue so that
Okay.
we can get the ESSER funds in. We have a couple of months. Approved.
So we don't have the ESSER funds yet, right?
Right,
That's 1.8?
That's
right,
half of 1.8, and it's
Okay.
going to be in 2 fiscal years. So yes.
yes.
But yeah, that
But they should be coming shortly.
exactly. And then I'll work very closely with the superintendent and the finance director for what that, if that $500,000 is to be used for something differently than what you see right here. If the ESSER funds is used, then we'll certainly notify you. There's no vote necessary, just
Okay.
something
Okay.
the Board of Ed has to take a look at.
But you
Yeah.
can, but you have your druthers is to pay it out of the ESSA 2 money.
That's what it says in their
Right.
memo in the bottom, yes.
Got it.
Yep.
Hopefully
Okay,
the timing works out.
all those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? All right, motion carries 5-0. So the second one is to set up the non-lapsing account not to exceed 2% of the Board of Ed operating budget for the 2021-2022 year.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Do we have a motion?
I'll so moved on that.
All right, Mr. Pocock, second by
I'll second.
Mr. Lebenik.
I have a question on that.
Okay, discussion.
What is there any impact on the COVID relief funds? Are the COVID relief funds included in that 2%? Or are they?
This is their operating budget, just like
So
what,
it
just
does
like what the
not
town
include
does.
it.
Right, this
Right.
is not included. This is like what the town does. We used our
Yep,
operating
okay.
budget to do our budget reallocation. The Board of Ed is doing something similar to that.
Okay, but as I understand it from the things I've read,
That's forthcoming.
Okay,
It's not included in these.
okay.
In this information.
Because I guess at this time, we don't know the amount, right? All we know is it's 2% of operating.
Okay.
But we won't know the details till the next.
But this is not, I can't stress enough, this is not any monies from the Fed. This is their current operating budget. They're asking,
Right.
so they're asking to carry over up to 2%.
Right.
Details forthcoming.
Right, so we're basically setting up the account,
Right,
and then we'll do the, I believe we did it in September last year.
I would give a little leeway because they'll be operating with a new administration, so give them a little bit of leeway. I know they'll hit the ground running, but I'm not sure they'll have it exactly when the current superintendent gave it to us.
But we don't know.
I can only say that Mrs. Danello thought it would be close. Won't be more than 2%, but it'd probably be good. That would be just about 2%. That's 2%. Because their current budget, the budget they're in right now is $100 million.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 5-0. Now we go to executive session for security.
Before we do that, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the administration, and I'll let you speak for that too, but this is Mr. Cannellan's last meeting with us. I know he's going to be very upset that he doesn't have to work with us anymore. But obviously, on the behalf of the administration, I know that the chair will speak for you also. It was a pleasure having you here, Tim, and I'll let the chair speak on behalf of the Board of Finance.
Yeah, thank you for being. You can come up and chat with us. We'll invite you up to the.
Put you in the hot
Put you in the public role a few more weeks. But yeah, thank you for being with us. Thank you for bringing transparency, bringing your budgets forward with such passion on behalf of the students. You are a resident of the town as well as the superintendent of schools, which is nice that you're part of the community in more ways than one, and you had a business in town, which is just nice all around. And we appreciate you, and we thank you for your service and your staff for their help.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for saying that, Mr. Leary. Thank you, Mr. Shota. It's been good. I think over the years we've established a very good working relationship. It's been based on trust. Board of Finance members have always asked good questions. Sometimes you don't like the answers that we have, but you always get the answers. They are the answers are the answers. You know, sometimes we don't like the answers either. But it has been good, and we really appreciate it. We appreciate the support, and especially this, the last several years when I think we've been able to make some really good progress on attacking some of those projects and the process that you just approved. And even though I am not going to be the superintendent any longer, I think on behalf of our school district and certainly our arts department, I would like to invite all of you to come when we have an in-person production in our auditorium, because part of this process allowed us to restore that auditorium to the way it should be, with lights, curtains, sound system. And the sound system also has the ability to accommodate folks who have various types of hearing impairments. And that's going to be tremendous. It's tremendous for our community. It's tremendous for our kids. So when that first production happens, I'm going to ask Mr. Medancy if he will make sure that he invites everyone. Mr. Pocock will be there anyway. So, but we'll make sure everyone gets an invitation, because I think that is an example of the type of work that you can do when you collaborate, and everyone, I say this all the time. Our staff get tired of me hearing it. They get tired of hearing me say it, is that we're only here, at least in our area in education, we're only here to do one thing, and that's to do the right thing for the kids. Not to try to do the right thing, but to do the right thing for the kids. And we've been able to do that with your help. So we really appreciate that. So thank you. And I do live here, so you might see me again. I might come, and you never know. If you invite me, I'll come.
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
You come to the. You won't get any questions, but come and speak. We'll time you.
Okay, great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, this is also somebody else's last meeting. She has worked for the town, 25 years at least, right, Linda? 35 years at least. She worked for me personally for at least 25 years. I personally will miss her. We all, as board members, will miss her. I know she's moving to live near her granddaughter, so who could ever fault her for doing that? But Linda Giannoni has been a prize for the town of Southington, and thank you all. Thank you for whatever you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So where are you moving?
Missed you.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's serious.
Nice.
I hear even her daughter-in-law is happy about that, so that's good.
Wow.
This doesn't go out to Wisconsin. So.
Congratulations.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chair, other than an executive session.
That's excellent. All right, let us move into
you.
executive session. You can say who stays
Thank
and
you.
what the purpose
For
is.
security purposes, the entire
Linda,
board's going to
thank
stay. Obviously, I'm going to stay, the director will stay, and we also need the IT director. Everyone else can call it a night.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you again.